Hi, this is Frid from The Joy of Syntax and English in Color. Well, I took you on a tour through the German sound alphabet, and I hope you enjoyed it. And now, how can we move on from here? Well, practice makes perfect. And so I put together a Word document where I list the sounds from the sound with the specific words again, the sound alphabet words. And I give you a little children's verse for each sound. But before I start with that Word document, I want to just give you some general guidelines. And as we go along, I'll give you more. Okay, I'll share my screen. The lighting isn't good yet. I haven't figured that out totally. I need to turn that off, the back one. Yeah, and I need to arrange things differently, but I don't want the imperfect lighting to stop me from producing videos for you. So pardon me, I'm a technophobe or klutz or sloth, whatever. My sons think that I'm a techno sloth. I think I'm a techno klutz. But anyway, I'll just share my screen now and we'll get cracking, shall we? Okay. The first thing I want to tell you is that I would like you to think of your body in terms of a musical instrument. And when you use language, you're singing a song. And you know, when you listen to a language that you actually do not know at all, you will notice that you do not know where a word begins or where words begin or end in the flow of speech. You know, it's just like, and you know, with peaks and valleys and everything, but and then sometimes pauses and additional noises, but you as a non-speaker can say, okay, I heard that word. Once you learn words, you will be able to detect them in fluid speech. And what's really helpful is if we learn to create this flow, because that makes communication more comfortable. But when I teach pronunciation, I actually don't want people to run away with this idea that they have to speak perfectly. But if you know about perfect pronunciation, and I will make a video about standards again on another day, and about how artificial they are, and etc., etc. But if you know standard language, and if you know what to expect, you will be better able to understand other people. And it's fine to have an accent, but we don't want your accent to interfere with successful, happy, compassionate communication. So don't get frustrated. Just listen to this, and listen to this with curiosity and excitement, because I'm going to try to teach you a way in which you can sing German. Okay, so you think in terms of cranking on the motor, you know, and then just going through the song. And so you try to think in terms of linking and slurring and humming, and you try to keep the hum going. We will talk about word stress and phrase stress and sentence stress, I think, a little bit, and about elision and liaisons and you know, assimilation, but as little as possible. This is not a course in linguistics. This is a hands-on pronunciation class in which I want to awaken your curiosity and joy. I used to not like German that much, even though I was born into a German-speaking community. And through teaching it to a dear friend of mine who wants to learn it, I learned, or have been learning, to like it a little bit more. English is my favorite language, but yeah, I'm actually beginning to make friends with German because I want to help others to use it. Okay, so apart from this idea that you want to create flow in your own speech, and flow in communication. And again, it doesn't mean that you don't have an accent. It doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes. It just means that you get into the flow. And flow is both a linguistic thing and it's also a personal thing. So you try to relax, you try to really understand the vibes that the other person exudes, and you try to get in sync if those are good vibes. And so you try to somehow have successful, happy communication. And so that's step number one. Think in terms of flow, music, compassionate communication. The next thing I would like you to know is, or remind you of, is that German has something that's called final obstruent devoicing. And that's a very pompous term that simply says this: when you have a voiced consonant at the end of a syllable or of a word, it's devoiced. It becomes a voiceless consonant. And here are some examples. For instance, the German word Rad, which means wheel or bicycle, is pronounced Rad. So place your hand on your Adam's apple and say Rad, Rad. And it sounds like a T and tiger, but you say, you write a D. And German kids in the first and second grade, and also often later, often wonder when they hear a word, do we spell it with, in this case, a D or T? And then teachers and moms always give the same advice: form the plural, and then you will know. So the plural of Rad is Räder. So we hear, it's a D. So now we know Rad, even though we say T, is spelled with a D. The same for Bad, bath. Ich habe ein Bad genommen, Bad. But Bäder, Bäder, Bäder. I was trying to do a half English pronunciation of a German word. Now compare that to the English word bad. Germans always want to say that's bad, because they have a problem both with the ash sound and the final obstruent devoicing, which they want to do for English. But in English, of course, we have no final obstruent devoicing. Sometimes devoicing happens, but what is very important to remember is that voiced consonants have a huge impact on preceding vowels. They make them a little bit wavy and a little bit longer. So compare English bad and bat. So bad and bat, but we don't have that in German. So it's not bad, sondern bat. Das Bad, die Bäder. Das Bad, die Bäder. So if, you cannot hear that it's spelled with a D. You have to form the plural in order to know that. Okay, now take the word endlich. Interesting in two ways. Okay, it is related to das Ende, the end, or the end, or the final point, or whatever. And so we have endlich. So we have a T instead of a D, because end is at the end of the syllable. And then what you have is that endlich. You don't say endlich. You actually slur the T into the L. It's actually a liquid release. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Endlich. So endlich. You actually swallow the T. It's not endlich, it's endlich. So you have no voice, but you actually swallow the T and you release. So you stop the airflow, but then you release it into the L, endlich, endlich. So we have a double whammy here. We have a double problem. We have final obstruent devoicing, and then we swallow up the third phase of the plosive. And the third phase, a plosive is a sound where we stop the airflow and then release it. So it has three phases: a closing phase, a closed phase, and an opening phase. So so we move from the N, which lets the airflow out through the nose, into the T, and so we stop the air coming through the nose, and we also stop it in the mouth. And so we stop the airflow, but then we release it into the L. Endlich, endlich. And then it sounds a little bit different. Not endlich. So we don't breathe in between. Endlich. Okay, so we have final obstruent devoicing plus liquid release. Okay, so another example. Heben is to lift, among other things, among other meanings. And hebt is third person singular. Hebt. And so it's a consonant cluster at the end of a word, hebt. So the B becomes a P in pronunciation. Hebt, hebt, nicht hebt, hebt, hebt. But ich hebe, when I say I lift, ich hebe, it's a B sound. Wir heben, but hebt. Okay, so that's just an introduction or a reminder of an introduction to or a reminder of final obstruent devoicing in German, which makes it very difficult for people that want to learn German, and also very difficult for Germans who want to learn English, because then they have to go the opposite way and then learn the voicing and especially the different vowels. Okay, so as you have already noticed, there is a discrepancy between spelling and pronunciation. Now, before I started teaching German, I thought, okay, well, there's this huge discrepancy between spelling and pronunciation in English, but German isn't so bad, or actually it's pretty phonetic. And boy, was I in for a surprise when I started teaching German. So no, there is a discrepancy between spelling and pronunciation, and we just had a case in point with the final obstruent devoicing. So, but then we sort of know where to go. You know, D and T are a pair. You know, they are a minimal pair. That means that the place of articulation, the place where they are produced, the sounds, and the manner of articulation, so the way they are produced, those are the same, and the only difference between the two is voicing. T, like tiger, tiger, has no voice. D, like dolphin, delphine, has voice. Okay, so these are related, so then it's not so hard. But what becomes very tricky is when two words are spelled the same, but then pronounced differently. Now look at der Weg oder der Weg und weg oder weg. I actually didn't put this in bold. I should have, or I can still do this. Those are two different pronunciations for the same word, or each word here. Weg is path or pathway, or various meanings like that. And in Standard High German, a lot of people say der Weg, but in the north, people say der Weg. So der Weg with the kangaroo sound, or der Weg with the Specht sound. Ich, Specht, Weg. And then we have, so that's a noun, and then we have the adverb weg, away, or also off or gone, and that has a different vowel sound. It's the sound e, as in ich, weg. And then again, you can say weg oder weg. Es ist weg, es ist weg. Now I think weg is High German and weg is Northern, but I'm actually not totally sure. Okay, I say both. I sometimes say weg and sometimes I say weg. And I actually think I say more, I say das ist ein Weg. I say both. So I don't know when I say which. Anyway, it's a fact that der Weg or der Weg are two options that I use, and weg or weg. So the noun and the adverb are spelled the same. Okay, one is capitalized because it's a noun and one is not because it's an adverb, but still you don't hear that. So the letters are the same, but the pronunciation of the vowel is different. I think that's really mean, really hard. So yes, that can happen. Okay, then we have amalgamation and elision. So sometimes sounds meld together and sometimes sounds are elided, left out. And so here we have an example of when sounds blend into each other and produce a new sound. So nichts, nothing, is often pronounced nix. Nichts, nix. So that doesn't matter. Das macht nichts becomes das macht nix. Das macht nix. And again, we swallow the T. Macht nix. And we swallow it, we have a nasal release, which I will talk about in a minute. Das macht nix. Das macht nix. Das macht nichts would be the over-articulation. But I would say, das macht nix. Das macht nix. Nicht, not, that what you need when you produce a negative, das geht nicht. In that case, you can often leave the T out. So you don't hear the T and the S, and the SCH, T and S, they blend into nix. And here you simply leave the T out. So das geht nicht becomes das geht nicht. Das geht nicht. So you actually again have you don't release the T, you release it into the N, and there's a lot of pressure on the velum. Das geht nicht, and then you say nicht instead of nicht. Now I don't encourage you to say it like that. I think that will happen as a matter of course as you learn more German, but I do encourage you to not be confused when Germans say that. And if you want to, just for fun, you could practice it. Okay, now the question tag nicht. Sometimes people say, ach, das war nicht schön, nicht wahr? Oder das war nicht schön, nicht? I say, das war nicht schön, ne? I just say, ne. Das ist schwer, ne? Ich sage nicht, das ist schwer, nicht wahr? Das ist schwer, nicht? I say, das ist schwer, ne? Das ist schwer, ne? Okay, and so this ne is very, very frequent. Now, ne can also be a reduction of eine, one feminine form. For instance, willst du eine Tasse Tee? Would you like a cup of tea? Willst du eine Tasse Tee? Willst du eine Tasse Tee? I don't say that ever. I say, willst du eine Tasse Tee? Willst du becomes willste. So I drop the D and I just add the du as a schwa, willste. And then instead of eine, I say ne. Willste eine Tasse Tee? Willste eine Tasse Tee? That's what I say. Or I even say willst eine Tasse Tee. So I actually incorporate the D into the T. I drop the U and don't even turn it into a schwa, and then move into the ne. Willst eine Tasse Tee? Willst eine Tasse Tee? Willst eine Tasse Tee? But the willst eine Tasse Tee, but so you hear the willst eine Tasse Tee. So willst eine Tasse Tee? Willst eine Tasse Tee? That's very, very difficult. When you're a learner of German and you are expecting willst du eine Tasse Tee, and you hear willst eine Tasse Tee, it takes some getting used to. Okay, nun can be a form of ein. So willst du ein Brötchen, would you like a roll, becomes willst du ein Brötchen, or even willsten Brötchen. Willsten. And I actually would say willsten Brötchen. Nee, I'll leave it out. Willsten Brötchen. Willsten ein Brötchen, willsten Brötchen. Das heißt, willst du ein Brötchen? Okay, now, inflectional endings can be left out when it doesn't cause confusion with other case endings, or inflectional endings, sorry. So, it is ich gehe, du gehst, er geht. Wir gehen, ihr geht, sie gehen. Now, ich gehe, there is only one E ending. So if I say ich gehe, or if I leave out the E, ich gehe, you can't confuse that with anything else in that block. Ich gehe, du gehst, er geht. Wir gehen, ihr geht, sie gehen. Ich gehe. So it doesn't matter whether you say ich gehe oder ich gehe. Ich gehe is shorter. Language loves the easy way out. The tongue, the mouth loves the easy way out. That's why we link, and that's why we connect, and that's why we drop stuff and change sounds. So always make it easy for yourself. Easy and flow, ease and flow, creating ease and flow in speech and life. Okay, so we can learn to relax with the help of practicing relaxed German or language. Also, ich gehe becomes ich gehe. Yeah, but it's always a geht, or you sometimes swallow the T, but you don't, when you swallow it, you still stop the airflow in the mouth at the point of the alveolar ridge. So, ich gehe und geht. So, das mache ich nicht becomes das mache ich nicht. So we leave out the T, taught you before, and I leave out the E. Das mache ich nicht. Das mache ich nicht. Oh, my dog's becoming restless. Oh, baby, can we still stop a little bit? Can we wait a little bit? Okay. Now, das macht der nicht oder das macht er nicht can be reduced to das macht er nicht. Das macht er nicht oder das macht der nicht can become das macht er nicht. Das macht er nicht. So we have a deep schwach. Das macht er nicht. Das macht der nicht. Das macht er nicht. Das macht er nicht. Das macht er nicht. Totally different rhythm, right? Okay. Now, one more thing. No, two more things. I already mentioned the nasal release of plosives, but here I have a specific example. Platten can mean all kinds of things. Die Platte is actually the vinyl record. Die Platten is vinyl records, but it can also be like particular stones that you lay down on a porch. It can also be einen Platten haben, der can mean you have a flat tire. So lots of options, but it doesn't matter right now what it means. The thing is, we have T-E-N, and we swallow the vowel, and we have nasal release. So we have platten, platten. So we stop the airflow, and then we push the air out through the nose for the nasal. But somehow it's different. When you say, remember our friend, das Nilpferd, Nilpferd. And when I say Nilpferd, Nase, nein, it's very soft, it's very hummy. When I say Platten, I have a little bit of a Platten. I have a little bit of a like a roughness in my throat. I suspect that I have a glottal stop, but I can't quite tell you what I do. But I definitely have some tension in the velum, which makes this nasal harder then. So I release the air from the T into the N and make it harder that way, and a little bit like it's like a little explosion, or it's like a little, I don't know how to describe the sound. It's a little bit of a roughness. Platten, 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 platten. Yeah, okay, and here I mentioned this before, but here I have the IPA to help you with endlich. I don't say endlich, I say endlich, endlich. And again, because of the forcefulness of the T, the explosion that would have happened with the T, we have a little bit of a rougher L. So we have Löwe, very soft, la la la, lachen. If you just have an L at the beginning or in the middle of a sound, lallen, lachen, lustig. It's very soft, very liquid. But when you have liquid release of a T, then it's a little bit harsher. Endlich, klich, 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 endlich. I hope you can hear it because he's panting away. Okay. Yeah. I can recommend Wiktionary. The two big German dictionaries, Duden and Wahrig, don't offer IPA. And I already said, I suspect I know why, because Standard German is a sort of artificial standard. But I think it is helpful to start somewhere, so I recommend using that. Okay, so that's it. And I want to just show you a little rhyme or from a children's song that we will practice later, but I want to just read it to you and draw your attention to a few of the items that I've mentioned before. Ich bin ein dicker Tanzbär. Bär, no final R, right? Bär. Und komme aus dem Wald. Final obstruent devoicing, it sounds like a T. Ich suche mir einen Freund aus und suche ihn und finde ihn schon bald. And here you have two ways of saying that. Ich suche, you drop the E, mir einen Freund aus und finde ihn schon bald. Ich suche mir einen Freund aus und finde ihn schon bald. Or if I want to pronounce the E, I need to reduce the einen zu nun. Ich suche mir einen Freund aus und finde ihn auch schon bald. So if I want to take the E out here, I need to actually, for the rhythm, for the sake of the rhythm, add another word, right? Add a filler word. So, ich suche mir einen Freund aus und finde ihn schon bald. Oder ich suche mir einen Freund aus und finde ihn auch schon bald. Children's rhymes are really helpful in songs because they help you create rhythm. And, remember that you learn your mother tongue most likely with the help of children's rhymes and children's songs and children's books. And they inculcate into you the native rhythm and the native sounds and the basic vocabulary. Okay, and then the next line is I will tanzen, tanzen, tanzen. We have it like in Ziege. It's an affricate, and so we have an affricate. So we have actually a release. We have also a nasal release. Tanzen. Now, actually, it's not nasal release. We simply have ellipsis. We leave out the n. Wir sagen nicht tanzen. Wir sagen tanzen. So we go from the sibilant into the nasal, and it creates a little bit of a hardness. And hübsch, again, the B is at the end of a syllable, so it's devoiced. Hübsch. And here we leave out the E. Andere becomes andere. Ich bin ein dicker Tanzbär und komme aus dem Wald. Ich suche mir einen Freund aus und finde ihn schon bald. Ei, wir tanzen hübsch und fein von einem auf das andere Bein. We'll practice that later. And in the next video, I will remind you of the penguin, and then I will teach you the words to a little song that you can later then listen to on YouTube and practice. And I recommend practicing speaking the rhymes with me and then later singing the song. Okay, I will see you in the next video. If you liked the video, please give it a like and share it with friends. And if you have any questions, ask away. I will try my best to answer you and make you happy. Have a lovely day. Ich wünsche euch einen schönen Tag. Tschüss.